So one of the things that concerned me most about this project is these crappy tester brushes. They really got me worried. So I decided I'd do a test with it. So using the blue, I made up a, thinned it out a little bit and did it on the inside. And to be honest with you, it covered pretty well. So this is better than I had hoped or expected from these brushes. So we're going to move forward using these brushes. I'm not going to go and try to find something less ugly than this. We'll just work with this. So that's a plus. So let's get to putting this together. Okay guys, we're continuing work on our Matchbox F4Fu Corsair in the build it as when you were a kid challenge. Can't come up with a decent name for this, but you get my drift. Basically building it with only the stuff that was available to me when I was 10 years old. How about that? That's a pretty long title though. Anyway, so we haven't gotten anything assembled yet because, well, we have to do the internals. And even though the interior of this aircraft is barren, there's nothing there, we still have to do something with the pilot because I don't want to leave him in bare plastic, because it's the bare plastic of the pilot, and the seat is in dark blue. So it would make it so you can't see anything. It'd just be like having nothing in there. You'd just see blackness. So I don't want to do that. So we got to kind of dress him up. We have to do some other parts that have to get dressed up before we start assembling it, because they go inside the fuselage before you put it together. But because of the crappiness of this camera that I'm using, every time I take a video of something, it's always blurry, and you're probably looking at blurriness right now. So we're going to go over to the computer where I have some snapshots, and we'll look at those. So bear with me. Okay, so as you can see here, the interior of this model is barren. There's nothing in it. It's just empty. No detail whatsoever. And you know what? To be honest with you, I mean, some people might piss and moan about that, and I get it. But this kit was built in 1972. That's when they came out with it. And to be honest with you, I'd rather have a barren interior than raised panel lines on the outside. And this has got some, again, for its age, it's got some really nice recessed panel lines on it as opposed to raised detail. So, you know, cool beans. It's a trade-off, but I like it, so I'm going to deal with it. But anyway, so as you can see, there's nothing here. But like I said just a little while ago, instead of having it a cavernous interior with no pilot and everything, I decided to put the pilot together. We're going to install him and paint him up the best we can with our 6 colors. And for those that don't recall, our colors are silver, red, white, yellow, black, and dark blue. That's all we can use on this build. So here we are with Fred. Fred is our pilot. Again, he is part of the dark blue sprue parts. So again, when you look at him, there looks like there's no detail. So the idea is bring out the detail, correct? The best way, so what I did was, of all the colors I have, yellow I thought would be the best one to use. So I painted him with yellow, and a very light, washy type yellow, because I didn't want to, you guys that have experience will know what it's like when you use too much paint and not enough thinner in it, or thinner product, it just looks really too thick and clunky. So I wanted it to be smoother. So I lightened it up, applied it to the figure. But again, because the base of it was dark blue, it really didn't work very well. So I had an epiphany. I don't know why I didn't think of it before, but I don't really work that way. Again, do as I say, not as I do. So I went back and I painted him all silver. Once he was silver, I then used the yellow wash and painted him over again. So we painted him, and this is 2 coats. And again, it's blotchy and it's pooled in certain areas, but you still have the detail that's kind of showing its way through. I didn't want it solid one color because it wouldn't look right, you know, all yellow. So it is what it is, right? And when you put it in the plane later through the canopy, it's not going to be too it shouldn't be too noticeable. Again, the best that we could do with the colors we have. So after I did this 2 coats of this yellow wash, I then went over with a black wash, and then it made him look like this. Much better. Again, not perfect, but much more gooder. I then, detailed his hands with black gloves, black boots. I painted his pilot's cap, and I left his face silver, or silverish. With the wash and everything, he'll kind of be like a ghost pilot, I guess. Again, not perfect, but we're dealing with what we have to work with. I don't have all of the access to use all those Vallejo skin colors and other cool paints to do such detailing, and most of all, I don't have a primer which would allow the paint to stick to the figure evenly and look a lot more uniform. It's just not in the cards. So this is Fred, and he is attached to a seat, and he's going to be going into our plane very shortly. The other part we have to paint before we assemble the aircraft is the engine. It comes on the blue sprue, as you can see here. Excuse me, sneeze time. Excuse me. Is the engine. So what we did is we painted the engine black. I left the reduction gearbox the color of the sprue. Is it the accurate color? I'm sure somebody will complain, but no, it's not. But I didn't want to paint it black either. So I left it the color of the sprue. Besides, back in the day when I used to work on aircraft, I worked on C-130s. The reduction gearbox, which is what this is, was a blue-gray type color anyway. So I just thought it stands out enough. It gives it points of interest, makes it a little bit more interesting than just being black. After the paint dried on this, I used our Tamiya crappy Tamiya brush. Crappy doesn't really begin to describe this brush, but I used this brush and did a dry brushing over top of it with some silver to highlight the fins and stuff like that. Again, not perfect, but it will do. Next, we have this piece here. This is the very front of the cowl. What has to be done is, let me show you what has to be done is the cowl ring is here, the prop here, it's all blurry, but basically you have to put the prop through it and the engine on the back side of this and leave that flopping like that when you install it in the aircraft. Because it's going to be sandwiched between the fuselage and the prop, it's going to be difficult to get paint in here. So what I decided to do is to start painting this part first. And to do that, I wanted to do it with some silver. So that's what we're doing here. The first coat of silver on there. Again, no primer makes this difficult. Right now, the part as it sits has got about 3, 4 coats of silver on it. Finally, sufficiently covered the blue. And then later on, we'll paint the white over top of that because, of course, the white will cover the silver better than it would the blue. So that's where we are with that. Now, prepping for the build. Most kits, no matter what you do, you have gaps in it. And since I'm not allowed to use putty, I'm only allowed to use the things on hand of 1977 in this case, I decided to make myself some sprue glue. Now, I've been wanting to make sprue glue for a while because I hear people talk about it. It's supposed to be very easy to make and a good product to use. You take up your sprue, you put it into the liquid cement, and it kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It turns to an ooze, it gets broken down by the glue and becomes a paste, and that's what you use to fill your gaps. Well, I'm not allowed to use liquid glue on this kit because, again, I didn't have it back then. So I decided I'd try it with this. I took an old jar, I chopped up very finely with my hobby knife there and cut the sprues up, put it in there, and then I added the tester's glue, the paste glue. I'd never heard of anybody using it before, but I decided, why not? Let's give it a try. What's the worst that happens? So we added some glue to it. And we have sprue glue forming here. And this is only after about an hour, and it's already broken down and looking pretty good. So we're going to work on it. I might add some more glue to it to make it a little bit more liquidy. But I'm almost looking forward to having some gaps to try this with. So that's where we are with that. So that is where we... Oh, I forgot one other thing. The propeller. I hope this isn't too blurry because I didn't have a picture of it. The propeller... I had to paint the propeller. So to do that, I just painted it with flat black. The pump assembly for the pitching of the blades, I used silver. Now, because of the thickness of our ultra crappy tester's brush, it's hard to get in those between those fine spaces between the blades. So to fix that, what I did is I just dipped my toothpick into the silver, and I wicked it off best I could, and then used that to draw paint all over the smaller bits in between the pump housing. Some of it pooled up. That's when the brush came into play. I was able to use the brush to pull it away to cover the pump housing, and so we're going to leave that in silver. The next thing for the prop, though, would be, do I put the silver tips on there? To be honest with you, when I do silver tips, when I do the yellow tips with modern day Tamiya tapes and airbrushes and stuff like that, I still have problems. So the thought of using Scotch tape, no airbrush, and just a regular brush to paint on the silver tips, I keep seeing silver, the yellow tips kind of has me cringing. So I haven't decided if I'm going to put the yellow tips on there or not. Most likely I'm going to attempt it, but at this point I'm still kind of leery of trying that. But that's where we are. Once those are done, and I can actually do that later too, but once that is done, we can start putting these parts together, actually getting to the assembly of the model, and then from there we'll start looking towards filling any gaps and painting and stuff like that, the real meat and potatoes of this build. So that's where we are. I hope you're enjoying this. Maybe, again, like I said in one of the earlier videos, hopefully you're inspired enough to want to try this. It really is kind of fun. I mean, when you look at that pilot before that I showed you in the pictures, it kind of makes you cringe. But again, 10-year-old kid, it's just the way it was, right? So anyway, alright, so we got the basics of our plane completed. The wings are on, the tail planes are on, the cowl has been attached to the rest of the fuselage there, and we're looking good, and we got a spinning prop. Woohoo! The next step, or all that's really left, is all the small parts, the landing gear doors, stuff like that. I'm not ready to put those on yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start the painting process, and I'm going to give it an overall coat of silver first. This way we have uniform, once I apply the blue, it'll be a uniform color between the fuselage and the wings, because, underlying colors can change the appearance. So I don't want that, so we're going to give it a complete coat of silver. Then we'll go from there, and I don't want to break off any of the parts while I'm doing it, so that's why we're going to leave that bare. We'll take care of those later. So let me get my stuff ready, and we're going to start painting.